Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our session of Ask Masters. Today, we are going to touch upon a very important topic for all GST registered taxpayers. That is about the GSTR 9 and 9C for the financial year 2019 and 20. Before I go to introduce our speaker for today, can someone confirm if I am audible and visible? You can comment on the chat box, which is on the right hand side of your screen. Great. Thank you so much, Manjunath sir. Okay, so as you all are aware, today's session is focused on the GSTR 9 and 9C for financial year 2019-20. So today we have with us CA KSL Sachendra. He's a member of the Institute of Chartered Accountants since 2004 and is in practice for over 17 years now. Welcome, sir, to Masters India and the Ask Master sessions. To give you all a brief about Sir, so Sir has exclusively been practicing in the areas of GST, customs, foreign trade policy, and is actively involved in advising clients about corporate and non-corporate aspects in various indirect tax representation matters in front of multiple authorities, including the appellant authorities. He has performed indirect tax reviews across varied sectors and has guided clients on transactional structuring, workable business models, developing systems and processes for compliances under indirect taxes, which includes GST. Additionally, he has also presented a lot of papers in, in various study groups. Currently, he is a partner at Messrs. SSB and Associate Chartered Accountants, Bangalore. So it's an honor to have you with us, sir, today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So, sir, yes. So the topic is GSTR 9 and 9C for financial year 1920. So, what are your opening remarks? What is the first thing that comes to your mind when you're practicing or when you're actually filing the returns? What is the first thing that comes in your mind that, hey, this is something I need to remember by filing these returns or form?
See, annual returns is summary of returns, whatever we have done for the year as such. And this is gives an indication for an assessee whether he has complied with all the provisions, whether if there is any misdoubt or some wrong declaration that is a last option for an assessee to rectify it or to overcome some problems which they have committed during the year. So this is one of the best options for everybody to rectify their mistakes, and at least wherever they have not disclosed or not informed the department, they can route through or they can intimate through this kind of reporting. That is annual return is one of the such a kind of reporting where they can directly communicate to the department stating that these are all the things they have done. Some of them have been missed out. So obviously, in a business day-to-day transaction, due to the various ethic and the other schedules, compliances under various acts as on today, so if there will be always, what you say, there may be possibility of uh, what I can say, ignoring or wrong misinterpretation or wrong classification or submission of unknown information with the clients or the assistants of staff they will do. So those things definitely it is an what is an opportunity for the person to rectify and report. And as far as 9 is concerned, yes. So there will be some kind of watchdog, what we say, watch eye. So somebody is going to watch, somebody is going to verify. So that verification definitely gives an assurance to the government also that okay, so something has been implemented in the spirit of the what law requires, and that is also give one kind of what it is. The assessors will definitely going to feel that somebody is going to watch their transaction and what are the regulation compliances which they overlook into. So all those things definitely will the law will going to achieve its objective only some kind of monitor. So this is one of the monitoring aspects. Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Audible, sir?
Hello?
Hello, can you hear, sir?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So, sir, I was saying that now you're telling us that there is a watchdog. I mean, the department is working like a watchdog to ensure that we are filing or reporting the right kind of information. So, let's start from the worst come scenario. What will happen if I do not file the GSTR 9 and 9C by the 31st of March 2021? What's going to happen?
See, this question is we are taking at a wrong time because okay, there's an amendment which is going to be proposed in the finance bill where yesterday it got passed, and again it is depending upon the council decision whether to continue or not to continue this 9C audit or verification reconciliation statement, which is going to be verified by some third party, a chartered accountant or a cost accountant. So continuing the GST on 9 is definitely going to help us. Where one is limitation of act. So provision can definitely, there is a provision to review or the overlook or call for the information of 5 years from the end of financial year, 5 years from the filing of the annual returns. Hello, am I audible? Okay. So 5 years from the end of the filing of annual returns, the time limit is there. Once you file that annual return, okay, so possibility that non-disclosure, see, there is section 73 and 74 one section is there where if you are not disclosed any of the information which has an impact on your revenue, government revenue, the government definitely will take that and penalize you. So penalty provisions are very harsh in GST actually. So they can penalize up to 200% also, depending upon the mistakes what a person does. So once you are not disclosing, that gives an indication to the department that you don't have intention to inform. So you have an intention to evade the tax. So that intention can be established only by submitting the returns. So in that way, GSTR 9 is a very crucial point where everybody, any person has to submit all the information, whatever, as much as possible from the financier, so that tomorrow officers at the department will not come and say that you have an intention to evade.
Got it. Okay. Okay, sir. So then now how do we decide like whether I'm supposed to file my GSTR 9 or 9C? I believe this is based on an aggregate turnover basis.
Yes.
Like it's the aggregate turnover.
I will send my slide so that at that time I will explain you about this.
Okay, sir. Great.
Can I start my presentation so that
Yes,
afterwards you can have, if you have any doubts, you can just.
we can do that, sir. You can share your screen, sir.
Is it visible now? Hello? Fine. So shall I continue now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. See, now GSTR 9 and 9C, now it is almost 3 years now. So from 17-18, everybody has started filing GSTR 9 and 9C. And many of there are in the initial days there are a lot of issues, of course, from the software point of view or the what to disclose, what not to disclose. So those things day by day, everybody are getting enlightened on certain aspects. And of course, forums are also getting changed now and then. There are a lot of stringent indications that okay, what to disclose, what not to disclose, all those things. So now with the time constraint, now I am just taking through these points So I'm just talking to you about outward related, what has to be precaution or what needs to be considered, what is required under inward related aspects, what is the impact on RCM, so RCM related aspects, and reconciliation tasks which a person needs to do, whether in filing GST on 9 or filing GST on 9C, and some what are the documents which are prerequisite. Now, if you keep ready so that at any time in the future, when somebody department has copy the document, it will be on handy, and some other issues with law required and that needs to be avoided. With respect to the outward related, you had one question: what is the turnover? The turnover is 5 crore rupees. 2 crore for filing GST on 9, and that 2 crore has to be considered based on PAN basis, all India PAN. A person can have a n number of units, n number of branches, and all put together. In a case, say, take a scenario where a person has a turnover of 10 lakh rupees in one state and total aggregate 5 crore rupees in another, all put together. Even for the 10 lakh turnover state where he is doing a transaction, he has to file GST on 9 as well as GST on 9C.
Okay.
You may ask question whether the department has the data to validate, because my turnover in the state is 10 lakh, whether department will come and verify. How it is going to verify whether the all India basis my total turnover is 5 crores? Now everything is a PAN based and PAN link, and system, the department has a system to link the total turnover of yours with your income tax database. And not only income tax database, the department is planned to go to collect information from various other sources like income tax, what they are doing now. So definitely they will come to know what is your total aggregate turnover. As from the officer point of view, definitely they will not come to know until unless they make a thorough study of a case. But there is another wing in the department where they keep on validating this kind of information, and they will send the information to the respective jurisdictional office, stating that this particular PAN, the GSTIN, has the total turnover and whether he has filed a GST on 9 and 9C, plus, and to verify and audit. So definitely they have a system to identify those things. So turnover 2 crore rupees is for the filing of GST on 9, and 9C to get a certified by a chartered accountant or a cost accountant if the turnover, aggregate turnover is more than 5 CR. So aggregate turnover is another issue where a person will need to be scrupulously review what are the things to consider, what not to consider. So to be tell an example, so to be tell honestly, whatever the receipt or collections or sales, what you talk about, the total needs to be considered. So that is how it will go. The law has been designed. Okay. So coming to the other aspect, sales invoices, we will have a credit notes. So we need to look into the what is the gross sales or the net sales. The 5 crores and the 2 crores has to be considered net of sales returns. So that also a very important aspect, because if you disclose your financial separately, sales return separately, and disclose separately, definitely if somebody cross verify with your sales figure, they will insist for you to file the GST on 9 and 9C. Until unless you are substantially going to clarify that my net sales is less than 5 CR or less than 2 CR. Again, to validate that 2 CR or 5 CR, you have to consider other incomes and all the credit entries. The credit entries in the expenses also needs to be verified. And credit entries in the expenses reimbursement, under the GST Act, there is a possibility of treating that as also your revenue, income. So if that entry is missed out at any point of time, and the department comes to know later, definitely they will catch hold of you that your income is crossing more than 5 CR or 2 CR and you are liable and you are not filed the return. So you will be penalized for that. The majority, many of the cases, these credit entries in expenses are ignored because it is at the outset it is not able to identify. If you go item by item in the expenses, then only you will be able to realize whether there is a recovery of certain expenses. If that recovery will go into take a character of a revenue. So department always looks into those angles. To be share the department experience, now they are asking for the trial balance. The reason for asking the trial balance is that if there are recovery of certain expenses, definitely it will going to throw you an idea in the trial balance what is your debit, what is your expenses, and what is your credit, and what is the net expenses. So we need to be very thoroughly analyze each line item so that there are no credit height entries in your expenses which take the character as a revenue. And sale of fixed assets. So usually under the income tax or the books of account, what we do is sale of fixed assets, we token as a net income, net profit we will show. Or sale of net profit or loss, whatever we disclose in your financials. And sometimes in some of the cases, even the sale of profit will be routed to your balance sheet, and again it is shown as a income in the computation statement in individual and other cases. So we need to be very careful whether sale of asset at a gross sale value we have to consider. Whether that sale value has been included, it may be a reconciliation entry because it may not be taken in your P&L account as such. But sale of fixed asset at the gross level is the value which is attracted under GST. So we need to determine that value. And sometimes discount allowed and received also matters. The discount allowed and received, what you do, you will net it up many times, and your turnover may reduce because of that. Or if you verify, in fact, the discounts of the other expenses, whatever the revenue, incentive, whatever you call, it might have been reduced after the taxes. So on the gross level of the value, you would have collected taxes, you would have disclosed net of discounts or other expense, or other whatever you allow, rate differences of discounts, whatever name called. If you have allowed from your sales, then your sales would have been crossed or below 2 crores or 5 crores. But in fact, when you actually you collected your taxes before discount, and that may cross 2 crores or 5 crores. So we need to be very careful on that, and to determine whether 9 or 9C is applicable. And interest income has to be reviewed in two angles. One, interest income may be exempted in a financial transaction, and interest income in the other angle when you are doing a trading and for any delay in payment. So for that delay payment, if there is a clause of charging an interest, that interest, even though you term it as an interest income, under the GST Act, there is a clear-cut provision where it always says that all those interest will take a character of a revenue and it is liable for GST. So we need to consider all this turnover to determine the turnover of 2 crores or 5 crores accordingly. Inward related activities is another aspect where we have to take more precaution, because many of us or many of the businessmen, what they think, whatever the GST you have paid is my revenue indirectly, so I can adjust with my output, so I can enjoy the benefit of whatever the taxes I have paid. One, yes, of course, if it is 100% business taxable entity, there are no exempted income, definitely whatever it is a call they take is a correct one. But even then, there is a one section which talks about blocked credits. So section 17 in the GST which talks about a blocked credit. Even if you are doing a 100% taxable turnover, 100% GST you are paying on all your supplies, you are not supposed to take a credit which are listed in section 17. So that is one of the important aspects where we need to consider, and it is very difficult to identify until unless if the client comes forward and says these blocked credits are incorporated or taken as a credit. You have to 100% review, 100% each invoice page. If you review, then only we are able to identify whether they have taken a blocked credits. If they have taken a blocked credit, what is the reason they are going to give? Because there are exceptions in the blocked credits also. If it is used for the providing an outward supply, then it is allowed. So we need to analyze case to case basis, depending upon the nature of transaction, whether credits have been taken which are allowed. You can take the credit everybody will take a credit in the month when they have incurred, when they have the invoices. Sorry. So when they have invoice on hand, they fulfill all the related conditions under section 16, fine. But there are conditions in the section 16 also, the post activity. You purchase, you have the invoice, you take the credit, fine. There is a one of the condition or the what you say the monitoring aspect which they have inbuilt is that a chain link has to continue forever. So how the chain link is continued? If you, when you purchase, if you have to pay to the your supplier, in turn your supplier will pay to the government. So it is a chain link. So what happens if you don't pay to your customer? That obviously your customer also won't pay to the government, stating that I didn't receive money. I don't have any money to pay. So to ensure that they one of the conditions they have implemented is it has to be paid within 180 days. If you don't pay within 180 days, we have to voluntarily reverse those credit and we have to pay along with interest. See, another aspect of inbuilt here. Interest has to be paid along with the taxes after reversing. So it gives on a check to the person, so and to ensure that he has to pay within 180 days, otherwise he will going to lose your interest. And again, he has to keep following it up whether he has paid within 180 days or he has not paid within 180 days in all those angles. So it is advised to see that or have an inbuilt check that all the credits, whatever your claim, have been paid within 180 days. And if the person has not paid within 180 days, whether he has taken the he has reversed the credit and along with the interest. Of course, he can take back those credit once he pays to the parties. The other aspect is ITC is not allowed forever. In the sense, if you have an invoice, you are allowed to take that invoice credit if by oversight, if you are misplaced or if you are not received the invoices on time or there is some negotiation is happening and they have put a restriction that you are eligible to take the credit only within the period within 6 months from the end of the financial year. So indirectly, for the month of March, we have only 6 months period to claim the credit. If you are not, you are for the period of April, there may be an 18 months time to take the credit, but for the month of March, it is only 6 months time to take the credit. If you missed out to take the credit, you are lost forever. And another aspect, there may be chances that the client would have taken in October, November, December, where we have to very much cautiously verify what is the invoice date where the claim has been claimed. So with respect to the invoice, we have to keep it in mind that we have to take the credit before 30th September of the subsequent financial year. We need to see that whatever the credit we have taken, we have paid within 180 days. Otherwise, we have reversed it along with an interest. We need to ensure that the blocked credits are not taken. So some of the examples are motor car and immovable property related. We need to ensure that exempt supplies, the ITC which are related to exempt supplies are to be reversed, whether we are reversed, whether we have taken or not taken, whether we have taken and proportionately calculated and reversed, that we need to ensure. Sorry. So one more aspect in majority industry, what happens? The credit is pertaining to it will be a very use with respect to the capital goods. And people are tempted to take those credits because it avoids me a further outflow. Of course, you are rightly eligible to take the capital goods credit, but there are a lot of other restrictions inherent with that credit. What is that? We need to ensure that the capital goods, whatever you purchase, are utilized or kept it with you for the next 5 years. So laptops, take an example. Or capital goods in the GST aspect is all those goods which you capitalize in your books of accounts are capital goods. So laptop usually in majority cases you may be capitalizing that. Of course, subset very big software companies where they say that even they have not used laptop for a year or more than a year, they may write it up. But in otherwise, in a general business scenario, all those will be capitalized. So we need to ensure that all those capital goods, whatever you capitalized, or continue to be in your books of account for the next 5 years. Fine. The next question: what if I am not continuing toward those capital goods for the next 5 years? Fine. So law has stipulated that if you are selling, if you are not holding or using those goods for the next period or the next year or after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, it has prescribed that you have to reverse proportionate credits. So those proportionate credit, as a person, every person, registered person has to monitor that. Where he is not going to sell his capital goods, he is not going to use their capital goods which intended to manufacture or use for the taxable supplies. So capital goods credits are allowed only with respect to the proportionate with respect to the taxable supplies. So if it is an exempted supplies, he has to proportionately reverse it. So lot of conditions are related. So taking a credit, capital goods credit is of course good, but we need to be very cautious and monitor every now and then about the disallowance aspect or the reversal aspects. Input service distributor. So that is another aspect, of course, in many big companies where the service units are established at one particular point, one particular state or one particular location. They may consume all the services and distribute other services to other locations. So there is a provision in order to see that they are not discouraged or they are not. What happens? The conditions under the GST Act may not be fulfilled in case of distributors. Okay. So service distributors, it may not be possible because the CGST, SGST components or IGST components are utilized in the other state. So a lot of other issues is there. So to overcome that, they have provided one more aspect to distribute the credit by the company. So we need to ensure that whether the distribution happened as per the provisions and at the appropriate proportionate ratios. And over, as I said, there is common credit is another important aspect. Majority of the cases, there will be some or the one or the other revenues which are exempted. Definitely bound to be there in their financials. So capital goods, common credit we have to reverse. Regular goods, common credit we have to reverse. So common credit maybe take for example accounting or a telephone. So n number of expenses, advertisements. So n number of expenses where we have taken a person would have been taken a credits and that needs to be reversed proportionately with respect to the exempted turnover. Debit note, purchase return. Fine. It is we need to be very much cautious because the department knows that there is a reversal of a sales when your supplier has reversed in his GSTR1. So they have the data with them. If you don't reverse that, they will come and say that okay, our GSTR1, the person has said that you have returned the goods and he has uploaded. So have you reversed those credits? And department has the information and handy, so we need to be very cautious and ensure that whatever the taxes with respect to the purchase returns, we are going to reverse or discharge. Another aspect, the government has put a lot of burden with respect to considering the reverse charge mechanism as the revenue collection methodology in case of unorganized sectors. So there are a number of unorganized sectors in India as such, and of course because the person who are registered, they feel that they are organized. So 20 lakh turnover or 40 lakhs turnover, whoever is doing, they are organized and they say that you are capable of complying. So I am putting some more. You be as an agent for the government. So in that way, the government is also trying to collect more and more revenue. How the government comes to know whether I have incurred certain expenses where I have to discharge under the reverse charge mechanism. Of course, there are certain dealers who are registered dealers who are reporting to the government through GSTR once stating that I have supplied the services of so and so services to a so and so person. So all those idea, all those transactions are reflecting in your GSTR 2A and 2B, definitely it is an indication that you are liable to discharge the taxes under reverse charge mechanism. There are very few common expenses where majority of the cases definitely they will have one or the two, and we should ensure that these kind of transactions are taken care, and taxes whatever is required or discharged month on month wherever eligible to take an ITC with respect to those reverse charge taxes, and we have to ensure that these reverse taxes under these reverse charge are paid through cash, and your financial statement of previous year will give an indication, and of course the current year trial balance transaction also gives an indication if they have regrouped or wrongly grouped certain items. So security charges or legal charges or director's remuneration, sponsorship, rent-a-cap. So these are certain type of expenditure where every business entity will go into definitely incur. One is transportation. It will for the movement of goods, which you cannot avoid it, and you cannot say that no, because majority of the transporter, big transporter, they have registered and they are reporting. Security charges, you might be regrouping as a salary or administrative expenses, but be careful as an auditor or at the time of reporting or compiling in GST online, you consider those security charges and discharge appropriate taxes. Legal charges, wherever the advocates are coming and involved and providing their services at the various business in related to business activities, we need to discharge and ensure that GST is paid under reverse charge. Directors' remuneration, a very good aspect for litigation. Of course, many of the department now they are awareing that okay, remuneration need not be in terms of a professional fee; it can be a salary also. Of course, once you mention in the work in a company's financials that directors' remuneration have been paid, if it is a non-salary remuneration, please do see that you are going to discharge GST on that. And small and medium companies nowadays they are going to receive certain services. Say for example, maybe a Microsoft services, Google services, a lot of other services from the foreign entities who may not be registered in India. Of course, now some of them are getting registered, and in your invoices it clearly says that those person have a registration in India. So their GSTIN number gives an indication that they have collected GST in their invoices and they are remitting. If they are not, then it is on our duty to discharge GST on all those aspects. And this import of service, of course, the department may not be come to know it easily unless your financials reports that there is a foreign outflow. So foreign outflow give an indication that they have imported certain services or you have purchased certain goods. Sponsorship fee, it may be a very rare case, a very big company may be having that if you have paid sponsorship fee, we have to discharge the GST on those sponsorship fees. Rent-a-cap, so there was a lot of issue and now they have given interested the responsibility. If you are renting a cab, then you have to discharge the GST under reverse charge by your own. Whether allowability of all these payments as an ITC credit is another aspect a person needs to verify before taking the credit. If anything is related to your taxable supplies, yes. If some director's remuneration, legal charges, assume are common services, then proportionately you are not eligible to take the ITC. We need to be careful and decide depending upon your outward supply, the nature of outward supplies and the characters of the revenues. We have to ensure before proceeding for GST on 9 or 9C to reconcile with the information what we already submitted or furnished to the department. So we don't have any chances for rectification. Under GST, we don't have any rectification or filing the revised return. The concept of revision is not there as of today. So we need to ensure that your books, whatever the transaction is, are reflected in your books, whether they are properly reflected in your GSTR1. So that reconciliation we have to do. And the same way we have to reconcile your taxes, whether taxes, whatever you have discharged by filing GSTR 3B or as per your books of accounts. So in 3B, we need to even reconcile allowable actual ITC, allowable ITC, ineligible ITC, all those things. Even we need to reconcile and we need to verify your previous year GSTR 9. Why we have to verify GSTR 9 previous years? There are certain columns in the GSTR 9 which talks about whether you have claimed any you have claimed any return ITC with respect to the current year in the subsequent financial year. There is a specific column if you have paid the taxes on the outward supply pertaining to current year in the subsequent financial year. So all those things we would have reported in the previous GSTR 9 and 9C. So we need to ensure that all those information have been properly considered, reconciled, and reported in our current year GSTR 9. The government has given another column of data, GSTR 2A and 2B. So we need to ensure whether to take a credit on GSTR 2A, 2B. Of course, for the last financial year, 2B was not there. So I have just for the current prospective purpose, GSTR 2B plays a very important role. With respect to the GSTR 2A, it is only for reconciliation purpose and understanding and information purpose. For GSTR 9, whether if you are as long as you have invoice 9, invoice GST invoices, valid invoices, and taking the credit, fine. From the audit point of view or from the client point of view, it suffices. The client may upload the data at a later date. If you have a confidence that clients are going to upload those ITCs, you are allowed to take ITCs. So we need to reconcile and verify who are not uploaded and whether I can claim all those ITC without taking any any chance of in the future if the customer defaults, then we are liable to pay interest. So those kind of probabilities we need to analyze now only. And there are other accounts in the GST portal. So the electronic cash ledger, electronic credit ledger, GST liability ledger. So all those ledger, we don't know how it is reflected until unless you verify, cross-verify with credit ledger, cash ledger, liability ledger. If some amounts have been coming there and this is not accounted in your books, definitely it will go and give an indication that some entries may have been misplaced or may are not done properly. So we need to take that also into consideration while comparing GSTR 9 and 9C. So we need to look into or keep ready certain documents on handy. The reason certain documents at any point of time after paying GSTR 9C, 9 and 9C, the government may ask you on top of the documents of verification, audit verification. So lot of chances, whether for verification of ITC, whether for verification of your one discrepancies, all those things. So we need to keep all those things, documents, inward outward registers, HSN details. If we start the practice of keeping maintaining now, at least in the henceforth, now they have made compulsory for various other transactions. So it will give an handy on us for us to an experience and a guidance for us whether the particular nature of transactions have been recorded in a proper way, so that at a future date we can retrieve the data or the information whatever is required with respect to the HSN and stock. So the other few points which are very much important point where majority of the clients may not have been taken at a serious level. LUT. So LUT, of course, majority would have been taken, but whether the LUT have been incorporated in the invoices, whether so that proper invoice have been issued to the customers, we can ensure. So these are all used for the zero rate supplies to SEZ and export, which is a prerequisite. Otherwise, the company or the person has to pay tax and go for a refund. So majority of the cases, if it is a new transaction for an entity, there is a possibility of failure in obtaining the LUT. So we need to be very cautious, and because we may have to report this transaction in your GST on 9C. 9, of course, there is no particular column, but in 9 we can always say zero rated, but we ensure that at least you take the LUT subsequently and intimate to the officer that I have taken a LUT so that we are not to levy or penalize at a later date. So in GST on 9, there is a specific column where it talks about whatever the refund client applied for the refund, what is sanctioned, what is rejected, what is received, what is pending, all those things. And this is a prerequisite and a compulsory one which we need to incorporate, we need to fulfill for the year 1920. So this was one of the, of course, this forum in the previous forum also it was there, but they have relaxed this condition for reporting. So now for the 1920, it is a compulsory reporting, and we need to report that. We may say that all these information are available with the department, but of course, in order to see that compliance is done, and all the informations are reconciled and available and put at one particular point of one place where it will help the assessing officer or the monitoring officer to identify. So it is one of the prerequisite, and we need to ensure that we have to report these refund related aspect. One of the conditions for supplies to SEZ, if a client is supplying to the SEZ units, the precondition is SEZ units. Sorry. Sorry. See, one of the preconditions for SEZ is that SEZ or authorized officer has to endorse the invoice copies. Many of the cases, we would have issued the invoices to the SEZ units, where the SEZ officers or the SEZ units collect it and keep it themselves. They may not issued or even submitted to the SEZ officers, or SEZ officer may have endorsed these people, SEZ unit would not have been supplied or given to you. If you don't receive, if you don't have a endorsement or you on handy, then we may have to think whether taxes has to be levied on that or not. If you don't have an endorsement on SEZ invoices, the SEZ Act also says that within 60 days the endorsement has to be obtained. So majority, of course, even after 1 year also, many of them are not obtaining on a practical basis. But we have to ensure and inform to the parties, or party has to ensure that to obtain the endorsement of all those SEZ invoices. Another compliance payment also. So all the transactions where you do with unregistered dealers. So we have to start issuing a payment to them. This is a precondition. Of course, violation of this maintenance also will attract penalty. So some of the aspects where we need to consider is valuation of sale of assets. You may always say that some sale of profit on sale of assets is disclosed in my P&L account, so that is the amount where I have to pay taxes, or that is the value where I have to disclose in my GST online. No, actual sale value has to be considered for disclosure of taxes. Of course, there are various other methodologies for depending upon the nature of transaction. Say, for example, sale of used motor vehicles, second-hand goods dealers. So in those cases, the determination is a different methodology. But still, the profit on sale of assets gives an indication that there is a sale of assets and what is the value of those sale of assets, and whether what is the value which you have to reflect in your GST online. So it has to be arrived at. And you can say, and this is another transaction. If you have offices in multiple states, there is definitely there will be a transaction between the branches, units across the country. And all those expenses or the revenue, whatever the transaction, they might have grouped under a branch office transaction, head office transaction, or expenses recovery. All these transactions have to be meticulously reviewed. All these transactions at one point or the other point will attract GST, and we need to ensure whether GST has been discharged. If yes or no, whether this transaction has to be reported in your GSTR 9. It will call for the reporter. We need to report if it is GST is not attracted. So one of the input service distributor category has also bought only to see that the inter-branch units or inter-branch transactions are recognized and brought to the on record. So yeah, I already told you the ITC reversal and capital goods needs to ensure that whether the capital goods sold this year would have been bought 1 year before or 2 years before, and they would have been taken a credit fully. So we need to ensure that credit for those capital goods which are sold during the year has to be proportionately reversed. So Rule 43 talks about that. So Rule 43 we have to see that in all the capital goods transactions whether ITC has been availed. If it is availed, whether related ITC calculated on a proportionate basis have been disallowed. So these are all the certain aspects which I thought of saying today. Thank you.
Sir, we cannot see your face, sir. Or suddenly, if you can.
1 second.
Yes, sir. Yes, now we can. Okay, great. Okay, sir. So it's been wonderful, like listening to you. There was so much of information which you have shared.
So due to the time, I think I might be a little bit fast also. I may not have covered all the things, but I thought of okay, sharing few things with my experience, it will have an impact.
Yes, experience matters because you have practically dealt with it and you can actually give us insights which we should keep in mind when we are filing the GSTR 9 and 9C. If any of the audience has questions, you all can type in in the chat box which is on your right hand side. We can probably pick up 1 or 2 questions and then wind up for the day. Because the point is, I had so many questions when you started, and by the end of the session, all your questions were answered because you've made sure to answer all of them.
Now, the majority.
So we cannot hear you, sir. Yes.
Okay, now I am audible?
Yes, sir.
See, whatever I have shared is my experience that day to day we overcome.
Yes. Okay, so do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, you will get the recorded video. Once the session is over, within an hour, you will get the recorded version of this video. Additionally, it will be uploaded on Masters India's social media pages as well. So do we have any other questions? Okay.
So if anything is there, definitely you can get in touch with me. So you can, whatever the clarification from our end, definitely we'll try to do.
That's so sweet of you, sir. Great. So you all can get in touch with sir if you all have got any questions or concerns, and sir has offered his help. Okay, so since we do not have any questions coming in right now, I think we'll wind up for the day.
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope this session was useful to our viewers, and it was totally filled with knowledge for me. I've gained a lot of knowledge from today's session, and I'm looking forward to having more sessions with you, sir. Thank you so much for joining us at Ask Masters today.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and to our audience, thank you for being a great audience. Our next session is scheduled for 1st of April. Since it's the beginning of the financial year, we have chosen the topic of input tax credit as the topic. When we begin the financial year, we should be very clear about what kind of credit we can take in the year to come and the related things. You will receive the invite for it soon, plus it will be available on our social media pages. In case you all have any questions, concerns, or anything which needs assistance, feel free to reach out to us. We will be happy to help. On this note, let's wind up for the day. Thank you, sir. Thank you, dear audience. Hope to see you soon again. Thank you.